Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force ship Sovereign, watching the stars through the main viewing screen. The bridge was quiet except for the soft sounds of computers and the gentle breathing of his crew. Lieutenant Amy Foster sat at her communication station, checking messages from Earth. Commander Ryan Blake stood near the weapons control panel, his eyes scanning the tactical displays. It was supposed to be another normal patrol day at the edge of the solar system. Jake had done this route hundreds of times in the past 5 years. Nothing ever happened out here. The most exciting thing was usually a broken satellite or space junk floating too close to the shipping lanes. "Captain, I'm getting some strange readings on long-range sensors," said Blake, frowning at his screen. "Something big is coming our way." Jake walked over to look at the display. The screen showed several large objects moving toward them at incredible speed. "How big are we talking about, Ryan?" "Really big, sir. Much bigger than anything we have in our fleet, and there are a lot of them." Amy looked up from her station. "Captain, I'm picking up a transmission. It's not from Earth or any of our colonies. The signal is unlike anything in our databases." "Put it on screen," Jake ordered. The main viewing screen changed from the peaceful star field to show space that was no longer empty. Dozens of massive ships hung in the darkness like metal mountains. Their design was strange and threatening, with sharp angles and weapon ports that glowed with an evil red light. Jake had never seen anything like them. "My God," whispered Blake. "Where did they come from?" Before Jake could answer, the screen changed again. This time it showed the face of an alien creature. The being had gray skin that looked like old leather, 4 eyes that burned like yellow fire, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. When it spoke, its voice was deep and cold. "I am Admiral Kexthar of the Zephyrian Galactic Empire," the alien said. "You humans have grown too quickly. Your technology advances too fast. You are becoming dangerous to the order of the galaxy." Jake felt his heart beating faster, but he kept his voice calm. "This is Captain Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. You are in Terran space without permission. State your business." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter, but it was not a pleasant sound. "Your permission means nothing, human. The Empire has ruled this galaxy for 1,000 years. We have conquered 47 star systems and destroyed countless worlds that dared to resist us." Amy's hands were shaking as she worked at her console. She looked at Jake with wide eyes and mouthed the words, "Recording everything," silently. Admiral Kexthar continued speaking. "Your species has been watched for the past 50 years. You went from flying simple aircraft to traveling between stars in less than 100 years. You build weapons that concern our scientists. You must be stopped before you become a real threat." "We are not a threat to anyone," Jake said firmly. "Earth has never attacked another world. We explore space peacefully." "Lies," the alien spat. "All species say this before they become conquerors themselves. The Empire has seen this pattern many times. You will surrender now, or you will be destroyed completely." Jake looked around his bridge. His crew was staring at the screen with expressions of fear and anger. These aliens were talking about destroying Earth, about killing everyone they had ever loved. He thought about his wife Sarah back on Earth, about his 2 children who were probably playing in their backyard right now. "What exactly are you demanding?" Jake asked. "Total surrender. Your military forces will be disbanded. Your weapons will be destroyed. Your people will serve the Empire as workers and soldiers. Those who resist will be eliminated. You have 72 hours to contact your leaders and arrange the surrender of your entire planet." The transmission ended, and the screen returned to showing the alien fleet. Jake counted at least 50 ships, each one larger than Earth's biggest battleship. His own ship, the Sovereign, was considered powerful by human standards, but it looked like a toy compared to these massive vessels. "Captain," Amy said quietly, "I've sent everything to Earth Command. They should have the recording within minutes." Jake nodded. "Ryan, what's our tactical situation?" Blake checked his displays. "Not good, sir. Their weapons are charging up. I'm reading energy levels that are off our scales. If they wanted to destroy us right now, I don't think our shields could stop them." "But they're not firing," Jake observed. "They want us to deliver their message." Should we return to Earth? Amy asked. Jake thought for a moment. No. We stay here and watch them. If they make any move toward Earth, we need to be ready to warn everyone. Hours passed slowly. The alien ships remained motionless at the edge of Terran space, like predators waiting to strike. Jake's crew worked quietly, monitoring every signal and energy reading from the enemy fleet. Finally, Amy received a priority message from Earth. Captain, it's from Director Lisa Carter at Luna Command Center. She wants to speak with you directly. The screen showed a woman in her 50s with short gray hair and determined eyes. Director Carter was the head of Earth's Planetary Defense Council, one of the most powerful people on the planet. Captain Morrison, she said, we've reviewed the alien transmission. This is the moment we've been preparing for. Operation Shield. Wall is now active. Return to Earth immediately for special orders. Jake was confused. He had never heard of Operation Shield Wall. Director, what about the alien fleet? Carter smiled, and there was something dangerous in that smile. Don't worry about them, Captain. They're about to learn something very important about humanity. We don't surrender to anyone. The transmission ended, leaving Jake with more questions than answers. As the Sovereign turned toward Earth, he wondered what his leaders had been planning in secret. Whatever it was, he hoped it would be enough to save his world from the Empire's terrible threat. Director Lisa Carter stood in the main control room of Luna Command Center, looking at the massive screens that showed Earth floating in space below. Around her, dozens of technicians worked at their stations while military officers moved quickly between different sections. Everyone knew that the next few hours would decide the fate of humanity. Are all the representatives connected? Carter asked her assistant, a young man named Peter who had been with her for 3 years. Yes, Director, every nation on Earth is online. The President, the Prime Ministers, the Chancellors, everyone is waiting for your signal. Carter nodded and walked to the center of the room where cameras were focused on a simple podium. She had practiced this speech many times, but now that the moment was here, she felt the weight of 7 billion lives on her shoulders. Begin transmission, she said. On Earth, in government buildings and private homes around the world, people watched their screens as Director Carter appeared. Her voice was steady and strong as she began to speak. Citizens of Earth, leaders of all nations, I come to you today with news that will change our world forever. 3 hours ago, our forces encountered a massive alien fleet at the edge of our solar system. These beings call themselves the Zephyrian Galactic Empire, and they have demanded our complete surrender. Around the world, people stopped what they were doing to listen. In New York, families gathered around their televisions. In Tokyo, workers left their offices to watch public screens. In London, Parliament fell silent as members listened to every word. The Empire claims to have ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years. Carter continued. They say they have conquered dozens of worlds and destroyed any who resist them. They believe humanity has become too advanced, too dangerous to be allowed to exist as a free people. In the alien fleet, Admiral Kexthar watched the human transmission with his officers. Intelligence Officer Veltara stood beside him, studying the data flowing across her screens. They are broadcasting to their entire planet, Veltara reported. This appears to be some kind of surrender announcement. Good, Kexthar replied. At least these humans are not completely stupid. They understand they cannot fight the Empire. But Carter's next words surprised everyone, including her own people. However, I stand before you today not to announce our surrender, but to declare something that has never been said before in the history of our galaxy. Earth hereby declares the entire Sol system, all of Terran space, to be a prohibited zone for any hostile alien forces. The reaction was immediate and explosive. In government buildings, officials began shouting questions. On the streets, people stared at their screens in shock. Even Carter's own staff looked surprised by her bold words. Furthermore, Carter continued, raising her voice. Any Empire vessel that enters Terran space without permission will be considered an act of war and will be dealt with using all necessary force. Admiral Kexthar's four eyes went wide with disbelief. Several of his officers began laughing at what they saw as an impossible joke. Did this primitive creature just threaten the Empire? Asked War Commander Zexkoth, his voice full of amusement. Do they have any idea who they are speaking to? But Veltara was not laughing. She was studying her sensor readings with growing concern. Admiral, I am detecting unusual energy signatures throughout their solar system. There are structures, hidden in asteroids and what appear to be defensive platforms near their moon. Nonsense, Kexthar snapped. Our intelligence reports show they have fewer than 100 military vessels. They are trying to bluff us with empty threats. On Luna Command Center, Carter was still speaking to the world. For too long, the people of this galaxy have lived under the boot of the Empire. Today, that changes. Earth will not bow to tyrants. We will not surrender our freedom to alien conquerors. She paused and looked directly into the camera. To the species throughout the galaxy who may be listening to this transmission, know that you are not alone. Humanity stands ready to fight alongside any who desire freedom from imperial rule. Dr. Alex Turner watched the speech from his secret laboratory deep inside an asteroid belt station. Around him, his team of scientists worked frantically to complete the final preparations for humanity's hidden defense systems. For 20 years, they had been developing weapons and shields based on technology found in ancient ruins on Mars. Dr. Turner called his assistant Kate Sullivan. All primary systems are showing green. The defense grid is ready for activation. Turner nodded grimly. Let's hope we never have to use it. But if we do, the Empire is going to get the surprise of their lives. Back on the Luna station, Carter was reaching the end of her historic speech. The Empire has given us 72 hours to surrender. Instead, I give them 72 hours to leave our space peacefully. If they choose to stay, if they choose to threaten our world and our people, they will discover why humanity has survived every challenge we have ever faced. The transmission shifted to show a new image, one that made people around the world gasp in amazement. Hidden cameras throughout the solar system activated, revealing defensive structures that had been built in secret over the past 2 decades. Massive railgun platforms emerged from hollowed-out asteroids. Weapon systems rose from the surface of the moon. Space stations that had been disguised as research facilities revealed their true military purpose. Colonel Tony Martinez coordinated the reveal from Ceres' defense platform. All stations report ready, he announced over the command network. Operation Shield Wall is fully active. The alien fleet watched in growing alarm as humanity's true defensive capabilities became visible. What they had thought was a helpless planet was actually the center of the most advanced military system they had ever encountered. This is impossible, whispered Kexthar. How did they hide all of this from our scouts? Veltara's voice was shaking as she read her displays. Admiral, I am reading weapon signatures that do not match any known technology. Their energy output levels are beyond our understanding. Carter's final words echoed across space to every corner of the galaxy. To the Zephyrian Empire, hear this clearly. Earth does not surrender. Earth does not bow. And any who threaten our people will learn why we are called the children of a warrior world. You have been warned. The transmission ended, leaving the Sci-Fi galaxy in stunned silence. For the first time in 1,000 years, someone had openly defied the Empire. Humanity had drawn a line in space and dared the most powerful force in the galaxy to cross it. In hidden bases throughout the Empire's territory, resistance groups that had fought hopeless battles for generations suddenly felt something they had almost forgotten: hope. War Commander Zexagoth sat in his command chair aboard the Empire battleship Dark Thunder, studying the human defensive positions. His ship led the first attack group of 12 destroyers, chosen to test the strength of Earth's defenses. The Empire had decided to call humanity's bluff with a small force before sending in the main fleet. These humans think they can frighten the Empire with hidden weapons, Zexagoth told his bridge crew. We have conquered worlds with technology far more advanced than anything these primitives could build. His tactical officer, a younger alien named Kextos, pointed at the sensor displays. Commander, the energy readings from their defensive platforms are higher than expected. Perhaps we should wait for reinforcements. Zexagoth made an angry growling sound. Are you afraid of humans? The Admiral chose us to break their pathetic defenses. We will show the galaxy that no one defies. The Empire. The 12 Empire ships moved toward the inner solar system, their weapons charging for the attack. Each destroyer was 3 times larger than the biggest human ship, armed with plasma cannons that could melt through solid metal like butter. Captain Jake Morrison watched the approaching enemy from the bridge of the Sovereign. His ship was part of a small human fleet that had been positioned to meet the Empire's first attack. Commander Ryan Blake stood beside him, checking the new weapon systems that had been installed during their brief return to Earth. "Captain, the alien ships are entering weapons range," Blake reported. "Should we fire first?" Jake shook his head. "No. Let them make the first move. The whole galaxy is watching this fight." Lieutenant Amy Foster was monitoring communications from the hidden defense platforms throughout the solar system. "Captain, all stations report ready. Colonel Martinez says the asteroid railguns are locked on target." The Empire ships opened fire first, sending bright streams of plasma energy toward the human fleet. The deadly beams that had destroyed countless worlds struck the human ships and seemed to disappear into nothing. The Sovereign and her sister ships continued flying forward, completely undamaged. "Impossible," shouted Zexgoth. "Our weapons had no effect at all." Kextos stared at his instruments in confusion. "Commander, their ships seem to have some kind of energy absorption technology. Our plasma beams are being neutralized completely." "The Sovereign," Jake smiled grimly. Dr. Turner's new shield technology was working perfectly. The adaptive energy shields could absorb and redirect any energy-based attack, making the Empire's main weapons useless. "Now it's our turn," Jake said. "All ships, fire at will." The human ships opened fire with weapons the Empire had never seen before. Instead of energy beams, they fired solid metal projectiles at incredible speeds. The kinetic railguns launched, dense slugs of tungsten at nearly 1/4 the speed of light. The first Empire destroyer, the Blade of Conquest, never had a chance to react. 3 railgun rounds punched through its shields like they were made of paper and tore massive holes in the ship's hull. Secondary explosions ripped the destroyer apart from the inside. "What kind of weapons are those?" Zexagoth demanded, watching in horror as 2 more of his ships were destroyed in seconds. The human projectiles moved too fast for the Empire's defensive systems to track. Their shields, designed to stop energy weapons, were completely useless against solid metal traveling at such extreme speeds. Within 3 minutes, half of Zexgoth's attack force had been reduced to floating debris. "All ships, retreat," Zexgoth ordered. "Fall back to the main fleet." But the humans were not finished. Colonel Martinez activated the hidden weapon platforms throughout the solar system, revealing the true extent of Earth's defenses. Massive railgun batteries emerged from inside asteroids that the Empire had thought were empty rocks. Captain Danny Rogers led his squadron in pursuit of the fleeing Empire ships. His ship, the Liberty, had been equipped with the most advanced targeting systems humanity had ever built. "This is Rogers to all units. Don't let any of them escape to report our capabilities." The asteroid-based weapons opened fire, sending streams of projectiles toward the retreating Empire fleet. Lieutenant Nick Peterson coordinated the defense platforms from his command center inside Ceres Station, tracking each enemy ship with computer precision. Zexgoth's ship shook violently as human projectiles slammed into its hull. His shields failed completely, and atmosphere began venting from dozens of holes. "Emergency jump to hyperspace," he screamed at his navigation officer. Only 3 Empire ships managed to escape the slaughter. The other 9 were torn apart by human weapons that fired faster and hit harder than anything the Empire had encountered in 1,000 years of conquest. Commander Beth Williams led the cleanup operation, making sure no Empire survivors were left to spy on human technology. Her ship, the Defiance, moved through the debris field with its sensors scanning for any signs of life. "Captain Morrison," she reported over the communication system, "we count 9 enemy ships destroyed. 3 escaped, no human casualties. All our ships are undamaged." Back on the Dark Thunder, War Commander Zexagoth tried to understand what had just happened. His proud attack force had been wiped out by an enemy they had expected to defeat easily. The humans had weapons that made the Empire's best technology look primitive. "Get me Admiral Kexthar immediately," he ordered his communications officer. He needs to know that everything we thought about these humans was wrong. When the Admiral appeared on the screen, his 4 eyes were burning with anger. Zexgoth, why are you retreating? You were ordered to break through their defenses. Admiral, they destroyed 9 of my ships in less than 10 minutes, Zexgoth replied, his voice shaking. Their weapons cut through our shields like they were nothing. Their defensive technology is beyond anything in our databases. Kexthar's anger turned to shock. That is impossible. No single planet species has technology superior to the Empire. Tell that to my dead crews, Zexgoth said bitterly. Admiral, these humans are not the primitives we thought they were. They have been hiding their true capabilities from us. On Earth, the news of the victory spread quickly. In every city, people celebrated in the streets. Humanity had faced the mighty Galactic Empire in battle and won completely. The aliens who had demanded surrender had been sent running with their tails between their legs, but the celebration was mixed with worry. Everyone knew this was just the beginning. The Empire would not accept such a humiliating defeat. They would return with more ships, bigger weapons, and a desire for revenge. Director Carter spoke to the world again from Luna Command Center. Today we proved that Earth will not bow to tyrants, but we must prepare for what comes next. The Empire will not give up easily. Dr. Turner worked frantically in his laboratory, knowing that the real test was still ahead. The Empire would study the wreckage of their ships and try to understand human technology. The next attack would be much larger and more dangerous. In the depths of space, Admiral Kexthar gathered his remaining fleet commanders for an emergency meeting. The Empire had never faced a defeat like this, and the news was already spreading to every corner of the galaxy. Something had to be done quickly to restore the Empire's reputation and crush the human rebellion before it inspired others to resist. The first battle was over, but the real war was just beginning. News of the Empire's defeat traveled faster than their ships across the galaxy. On dozens of worlds that had been under Empire rule for generations, people whispered excitedly about the humans who had dared to fight back and won. In the underground, meeting places of resistance groups, leaders who had almost given up hope began making new plans. Zareth, the leader of the Altarian resistance, stood in a hidden cave on his home world, reading the intercepted reports. His people had been slaves to the Empire for 300 years, working in the crystal mines that powered the Empire's war machine. Around him, other resistance fighters watched his face as he studied the information. "Is it true?" asked his second-in-command, a young female named Darana. "Did the humans really destroy 9 Empire ships without losing any of their own?" Zareth nodded slowly. "The reports are confirmed from multiple sources. The Empire's first attack was completely crushed. The humans have weapons technology that makes our masters look weak." For the first time in years, Darana smiled. "Then, maybe we have a chance. Maybe we can finally be free." On Earth, the celebration was brief. Director Carter knew that the Empire would not accept such a humiliating defeat. In the secure meeting rooms of Luna Command Center, she worked with military leaders to prepare for the counterattack that would surely come. General Sam Cooper, Earth's top military commander, pointed at the star charts displayed on the main screen. "Our intelligence suggests the Empire is gathering their largest fleet ever. They're calling ships back from all corners of the galaxy." Dr. Alex Turner entered the meeting room carrying a tablet full of data. His face was serious as he looked at the assembled leaders. "I've been analyzing the wreckage from the destroyed Empire ships. Their technology is actually more advanced than we thought in some areas, but they've been using the same designs for hundreds of years. They stopped innovating because no one could challenge them." "What does that mean for us?" Carter asked. "It means they're going to adapt quickly," Turner replied. "They'll study our weapons and try to develop countermeasures. We need to stay ahead of them." Carter made a decision that would change the course of the war. "Dr. Turner, I want you to prepare technology packages for our potential allies. If other species are willing to fight the Empire, we should help them." Meanwhile, in space near the Empire's main fleet, Admiral Kexthar met with Fleet Admiral Kexnar, the Empire's supreme military commander. Kexnar was an old warrior who had conquered more worlds than any other Empire leader. His ship, the Eternal Dominion, was the largest and most powerful vessel in the Empire's fleet. Explain to me how a single planet defeated our advance force. Kexnar demanded, his voice cold with anger. Kexthar showed him the battle recordings. Their weapons are completely different from anything we've encountered. They don't use energy beams at all. Instead, they fire solid projectiles at extreme speeds that our shields cannot stop. Kexnar studied the images of destroyed Empire ships. And their defensive technology? They can somehow absorb our plasma weapons completely. Our most powerful cannons had no effect on their ships at all. The fleet admiral was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. Gather every available ship in the Empire. Call back our forces from the outer territories. We will assemble the largest battle fleet in our history and crush these humans completely. How many ships? Kexthar asked. 3,000 vessels. We will show the galaxy what happens to those who defy the Empire. On Earth, Major Chris Bennett led a secret mission to establish hidden supply bases in neutral star systems. His team used small, fast ships to avoid Empire patrols while setting up communication networks with resistance groups throughout the galaxy. Major, reported his communications officer, Sergeant Kelly Davis, we're receiving coded messages from 17 different resistance movements. They all want to coordinate with Earth. Bennett smiled. The Empire is about to learn that they've been sitting on a powder keg for centuries. All it took was someone lighting the fuse. But the Empire's response was swift and brutal. On worlds suspected of communicating with Earth, Empire forces began executing civilian populations as examples to others. Entire cities were destroyed to send a message that rebellion would not be tolerated. Dr. Hannah Ross, Earth's chief scientist, worked day and night in her laboratory on Mars. The ancient artifact that had given humanity its advanced technology was revealing new secrets under her careful study. The device seemed to contain the knowledge of a civilization that had once fought a similar enemy. The precursors who built this technology faced something like the Empire, she explained to her research team. Their final message warns about the danger of centralized galactic powers. They built these weapons specifically to fight tyranny. Lieutenant Nick Peterson coordinated the expansion of Earth's defense network to include the outer planets. Hidden weapon platforms were installed throughout the solar system, turning every asteroid and moon into a potential fortress. The Crystalline Collective, an ancient species that had been fighting the Empire for 2,000 years, sent secret ambassadors to Earth. Their ships arrived cloaked and hidden, carrying representatives who had never thought they would see hope in their lifetime. Ambassador Silthara met with Director Carter in a secure location on the moon. The crystalline being's body sparkled with internal light as she spoke. For 2 millennia, my people have fought alone against the Empire. We have lost more worlds than we can count. But now, for the first time, we see a possibility of victory. Carter nodded. We're willing to share our technology with any species that wants to fight for freedom, but we need to coordinate our efforts. The Empire is gathering a massive fleet, Silthara warned. 3,000 ships or more. Even with your advanced weapons, you cannot face such numbers alone. We won't be alone, Carter replied confidently. Word is spreading throughout the galaxy. The Empire's reign of terror is coming to an end. Captain Jake Morrison, now promoted to admiral, prepared his fleet for the coming battle. The Sovereign had been upgraded with the latest human technology, and his crew trained constantly. With the new weapon systems, Commander Ryan Blake reviewed tactical reports from across the galaxy. Admiral, resistance groups on 43 worlds have reported successful attacks on Empire supply lines. The enemy is having trouble maintaining their fleet because of these disruptions. Amy Foster, now a lieutenant commander, monitored communications from the growing alliance of free species. Sir, the Altarian resistance has successfully captured an Empire communication center. They're feeding us intelligence about enemy fleet movements. The stage was set for the largest space battle in galactic history. The Empire's 3,000 ships represented the accumulated power of 1,000 years of conquest. Against them stood Earth's small but advanced fleet, supported by resistance groups and alien allies who had waited centuries for this moment. Dr. Turner completed work on his ultimate weapon, a device that could disrupt the Empire's faster-than-light communication systems. If we can cut off their ability to coordinate, he explained to the military leaders, their massive fleet becomes a weakness instead of a strength. As the Empire fleet approached the solar system, carrying the hopes of tyrants and the fears of the oppressed, humanity prepared to fight not just for their own survival, but for the freedom of every species in the galaxy. The next battle would determine whether the Empire's 1,000-year reign would continue, or if a new age of galactic freedom would begin. The final confrontation was coming, and the entire galaxy held its breath. The Empire's massive fleet arrived at the edge of Terran space like a storm cloud blocking out the stars. 3,000 ships stretched across space in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with weapon ports and shield generators. Fleet Admiral Kexnar stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, watching the small blue planet that had dared to defy his empire. "Admiral," reported his tactical officer, "we are detecting the human defensive positions. They appear to have only 47 ships to face our entire fleet." Kexnar smiled with cruel satisfaction. 47 ships against 3,000. Even with their advanced weapons, they cannot possibly win. Today, we will show the galaxy what happens to those who resist the Empire. But as the Empire fleet moved closer, something unexpected happened. Ships began appearing from hyperspace on all sides of the Empire formation. The Altarian Resistance Fleet, equipped with weapons, built from human designs, emerged from behind a nearby moon. The crystalline collective's ancient but powerful vessels materialized from their cloaking fields. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Sovereign, now serving as the flagship of the combined Allied fleet. Around him, his bridge crew worked at stations displaying data from dozens of different species, all united in their fight against the Empire. "Admiral," reported Commander Ryan Blake, "we have confirmed arrivals from the Resistance fleets. 43 different species have sent ships to join us. Total Allied fleet strength is now 800 vessels." Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster coordinated communications between the different Allied species. "Sir, all fleet commanders report. Ready? The Altarians are taking the left flank, the Crystallines are covering our right side." Zareth's voice came over the communication system from his flagship, the Freedom's Dawn. "Admiral Morrison, my people have waited 300 years for this moment. Today we fight not just for victory, but for the future of our children." Ambassador Silthara's crystalline voice added, "The collective stands with humanity. Together, we will break the chains that have bound the galaxy for too long." Fleet Admiral Kexnar watched in growing alarm as more enemy ships continued to appear. "How many of them are there?" he demanded. "Sir, we count over 800 vessels now, multiple species that we thought were completely under our control." "It doesn't matter," Kexnar snarled. "We still outnumber them nearly 4-1. Begin the attack." The Empire fleet opened fire first, sending thousands of plasma beams toward the Allied forces. But the human ships had shared their shield technology with their allies. The deadly energy weapons that had conquered countless worlds seemed to vanish harmlessly into the adaptive defensive fields. "Impossible," shouted Kexnar. "How can so many ships have the same defensive technology?" Dr. Alex Turner watched the battle from his command center on Luna Station. His ultimate weapon, the communication disruptor, was ready to deploy. "Activate the quantum interference field," he ordered his team. Across space, an invisible wave of energy spread from hidden transmitters throughout the solar system. The Empire's faster-than-light communication network, which had coordinated their forces across the galaxy for 1,000 years, suddenly went silent. On dozens of Empire ships, communication officers reported the same problem. "Admiral, we've lost contact with all other fleet sections. Our quantum transmitters are not functioning." Without their communication network, the Empire's perfectly coordinated fleet began to fall apart. Ship captains who had always received orders from above were suddenly on their own, unable to coordinate with their neighbors. Admiral Morrison seized the moment. "All ships, begin attack pattern Alpha. Target their command vessels first." The Allied fleet moved with precision that surprised even their own commanders. Human tactical computers linked with alien battle experience and resistance group knowledge of Empire weaknesses created battle plans that the Empire had never faced before. Captain Danny Rogers led his squadron against the Empire's left wing, his ship the Liberty cutting through enemy formations like a sword through cloth. The human kinetic weapons, now mounted on alien ship designs, proved devastating against Empire vessels that had never faced such technology. Commander Beth Williams coordinated the attack on the Empire's supply ships, knowing that without ammunition and fuel, even the largest fleet would become helpless. Her tactical wing destroyed the Empire's support vessels while they were still trying to figure out what was happening. The battle that Fleet Admiral Kexnar had expected to be a simple destruction of rebels became a nightmare of confusion and death. His fleet, designed to operate as a single coordinated force, broke apart into hundreds of separate battles as individual captains tried to fight without orders or support. Zareth's Altarian ships attacked with the fury of 3 centuries of oppression. Their crews, who had been slaves in the Empire's crystal mines, fought with a determination that shocked the Empire forces. "For every child who died in the mines," Zareth shouted over the communication system as his ship destroyed an Empire cruiser. The Crystalline Collective's ancient vessels proved that age could bring wisdom as well as power. Their ships moved in patterns that seemed to dance around the Empire's weapons, striking with precise attacks that targeted the most critical systems. In the center of the battle, Admiral Morrison faced Fleet Admiral Kexnar in single combat between their flagships. The Sovereign, with its advanced human technology, proved superior to the massive but outdated Eternal Dominion. "This is impossible," Kexnar said as his ship's systems failed around him. "The Empire has ruled for 1,000 years. We cannot be defeated by primitives and rebels." "The Empire's time is over," Morrison replied as his ship's weapons charged for the final shot. "The galaxy belongs to free people now." The destruction of the Eternal Dominion broke the Empire fleet's will to fight. Without their supreme commander and unable to communicate with each other, Empire ships began surrendering or fleeing in panic. Dr. Turner's communication disruptor had done more than disable the Empire fleet. Across the galaxy, Empire forces found themselves cut off from their high command. On world after world, resistance groups launched coordinated attacks against Empire forces that could no longer call for help. The 1,000-year reign of the Zephyrian Galactic Empire ended not with a grand surrender, but with the scattered flight of broken ships carrying news of defeat to every corner of the galaxy. Director Lisa Carter stood in Luna Command Center, watching the reports flood in from liberated worlds. "Admiral Morrison," she said over the communication system, "the Empire's central government has collapsed. Rebel forces have taken control of their capital world." 1 month later, representatives from hundreds of species gathered on Earth to sign the Charter of Galactic Liberation. The document, written in dozens of languages, established the principles that would guide the new age of freedom. Ambassador Silthara spoke for many when she addressed the assembly. "Today we begin a new era. Never again will one species rule over others through fear and violence. The galaxy belongs to all who call it home." Admiral Morrison, now appointed as the first commander of the Galactic Liberation Fleet, stood before the assembled delegates. "The Empire taught the galaxy to fear the strong and oppress the weak. We will teach a different lesson. We will show that freedom and cooperation are stronger than tyranny and fear." Earth had declared that the Empire was prohibited from entering Terran space. Instead, the Empire had ceased to exist entirely, replaced by a galaxy where every species could determine its own destiny. The age of galactic freedom had begun, and humanity had shown the universe that even the mightiest tyranny could fall when faced with courage, unity, and the unbreakable spirit of those who refused to surrender their liberty